Well, all right, everybody, welcome back to RCT Construction. We are kicking right off immediately after the demolition of Ring of Fire and Orca Expedition here at Funland for the 2003 addition to the park. Now, the coaster we are going to build, which you know by the title, was a very common, standard model found. Actually, I can't even really say very common, but was common for the time anyway. The first of these coasters, which is an Intamin Impulse coaster, opened in 1998, known as Linear Gale at Tokyo Dome City, and the first inverted coasters to use LIM launching technology. The first coasters to use LIMs would be the Flight of Fears at Kings Island and Kings Dominion. But I think the Intamin Impulses were the first ones to use LIMs for Intamin. But if I am incorrect, please correct me down in the comments. It's not really going to be a piece-for-piece build here today for this coaster. It is a pre-built, meaning I worked on it in the design world and then came back, and now it is complete. And we're just going to use the pre-built track to get it placed. Sorry, I'm kind of losing my words. I feel like I'm out of practice, so I do apologize for that. It's been a little while since I've done videos, and I'm doing two back-to-back, even though they're coming out kind of separate a little bit. Anyway, the model we are going to be building for Funland is going to be the Twist and Spike model, the first of which opened in 2000, which was called Superman Ultimate Escape at the now defunct Geauga Lake, or I guess at the time, I think it was Six Flags Worlds of Adventure. Might have even been Six Flags Ohio, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because that year they added like 4 big, huge coasters, one of which being a B&M Floorless, a massive CCI Woody, and then I think there was a kiddie coaster in there, and then, of course, the first of the Twist and Spike Intamin Impulse coasters. And yes, we are just going to use the standard Twist and Spike design, and I think this is the location I want to place it, right here along. So what I'm going to do by placing it here is use the Orca Expedition area just a little bit more effectively, meaning it can kind of be open year-round, which will be a little bit of a problem for staffing, but not as big as you may think. At the end of 2002, I rezoned all the staff just to make it a little bit easier for everybody here and make it so Funland's not burning through so much money. As you can see, we are in the positive, which has been an issue for this park the last couple seasons. So hopefully that will do it. It's going to get a little more complicated when the peak season hits, but I think this is the place I want to build this coaster. So we're going to plop it in right there. And right now it's kind of using the very standard color scheme, which you saw with Wicked Twister at Cedar Point. Steel Venom at Valley Fair has the same color scheme, and even when they relocated what was later known as Steel Venom but Superman Ultimate Escape from Geauga Lake over to Dorney Park, they ended up repainting it to this same light blue support with the yellow track color. But that is not what we are going to roll with for this ride. We are going to go with blue track and kind of these purple supports here. And the reason we're going to do that, and I will recolor the train momentarily, but we are going to name this coaster Electric Eel. So we're going to kind of keep it with the theme of the area. Eel just looks so weird spelled out like that. I hope I spelled it right, and in fact, what I'm going to do is just ensure that that's spelled right, just because sometimes when I type things out in Open RCT2 or Roller Coaster Tycoon just in general, it just looks kind of odd. Yet, nope, that's spelled correctly. Anyway, so moving on, just to kind of detail a little bit more about these Intamin Impulse coasters. So you had the Twist and Spike model, which was the most common. Of the 7 Impulse coasters that were built, 5 of them were this model. 4 of them, excuse me, were this model. So you had Superman / Steel Venom at Geauga Lake / Dorney Park, later known as Possessed. You had Steel Venom at Valley Fair, which actually would have opened the same year in 2003 as Electric Eel. And then you also had one over in China, I want to say, somewhere. I can't remember what the name of it is off the top of my head, but there is a 4th one. And then you have V2, now known as Flash Vertical Velocity, over at Six Flags Great America as well. One thing that they do, the Twist and Spike models do have that I'm not going to be able to recreate in this, just because I kind of go pretty vanilla. I'm sure you could if you did shoestringing, but unfortunately that's just not something I'm horribly into. you can do, or what these impulse coasters had, was a holding brake on the vertical spike. And as of today, there is only one Intamin Impulse coaster that still uses that hold brake, and that is going to be Steel Venom at Valley Fair, the newest of the Twist and Spike models. Long thought to be defunct, because Steel Venom was the last one up until 2021, which is when Legendary Twin Dragon opened up in China. And that one actually uses the new Intamin track design, kind of that more standard. I-305 uses that track design. It's just the more modern version where it has the center spine. It's not the box track, it's the center spine with the cross ties. But all the old Intamin coasters use this boxy style track. But as far as coaster placement goes, that's going to be about it. We're going to go ahead and move on over into the time lapse and get kicked off with getting it all detailed and fitted out. All right, and starting the fitting out, we're going to clear a little bit of land space. As far as the plan for the station, I'm going to be very similar to the Cedar Fair Intamin Impulse coasters, and a correction I have from earlier as I'm recording the voiceover of the time lapse. The other Twist and Spike Impulse coaster is not in China, it's actually in Taiwan. I just want to make sure I get that corrected as I looked it up in between the live comm and the recording of this. Again, as far as the station goes, we're going to make it very Cedar Fair-y. All of the stations for the Cedar Fair Impulse coasters are literally the same. I think even for the Six Flags ones, the stations were all the same. Very kind of a modern style, at least what modern style looked like for the early 2000s. Again, the last one of these opened in 2003 outside of the one that opened in China in 2021. But it's going to be a very boxy, basic station. We're going to get the LIM stators covered by a roof, and then we're just going to do a very basic, boxy station. We got some setup for overflow queue there in the back. And then as I was building this, I kind of wanted to make sure the quote-unquote custom supports, there's really not custom supports involved with this outside of the vanilla scaffolding, which isn't, realistic to the real-life counterpart, but I think in-game the wooden support structure or scaffolding looks really good on these rides, so that's what I went with. And then on the inside there for the launch track supports, I used Steel Venom at Valley Fair just to kind of verify what they were. And it actually just uses I-beams as supports there, so the vanilla kind of, I guess, walls there work pretty well to kind of hide it, so I'll end up going back with some support blockers to cover that. Getting the roof over the entrance of the queue there just to make sure if anyone loses shoes or spits gum out. You see a lot of that if you ride these. The one at Valley Fair, Steel Venom, is the one that, is the top of mind because that's the one I've ridden the most. But there's a lot of gum that ends up on top of that when it holds vertical, especially on that holding brake, which unfortunately I did not or was not able to recreate in the game. But that's pretty much it for these impulse coasters. Very, plug and play. I guess not even really plug and play, but they're just kind of out of the box style, and they fit really well. And Funland finally gets their invert. So this is gonna kind of be the counterpart for Kingman at Funland, at least for now. And then we do have some expansion plans for later in the 2000s. But thank you all for tuning in. That should just about do it for RCT Construction of Electric Eel at Funland. We will see the stats in the POV that will be released later. And I will see you all in the next one. Have a wonderful day.